Hello, and welcome to Wyverns and Weirdos Fathomless, D&D Podcast set in the world of Fierlor. I'm your Dungeon Master Darby, and joining me as always are Mitch, playing Neris, Jake, playing the Fishman, Joe, playing Alton, Laura, playing Janice, Zoe, playing Loren, and Eddie, playing 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧. Let's jump into it. So, where we last left off, Party met a god on the moon. Party met a god on the moon. I don't know if there's much more that's worth surmising than the party met a god on the moon. And yeah, so 𝗖𝗦𝗧 was practically prostrating itself at the emergence of this figure as it approached. An elven figure, pale skin with long silvery blue hair, wearing deep blue and silver robes and holding a staff adorned with a moon at the top at various phases. This is very recognizably to anyone who has any even passing familiarity with his depictions as the deity Loomis, otherwise known as the Man in the Moon.
Oh, shit. Look, hi. No, Loren just kind of next to Janice, because she's just said, hi, are you a god? And then without even waiting for an answer, she just full body freaks out, does the thumb to the forehead thing that 𝗖𝗦𝗧 had done previously, and then gets on one knee and just kind of bows her head, but is looking up at Janice like,
Janice takes a quick double take. Is like, great shock. I mean, well, yes, and then will immediately follow down on one knee as well.
It has been a long time since I saw your kind in such proximity. I have missed our children.
You're not kidding, huh? Elton's suddenly looking like very afraid, like very much like he would like to run, he would like to not be there, but he hastily like looks at to see what the others have done, tries to do like the thumb on forehead symbol and just drops to his knees as well.
Probably seeing the rest of the party drop down, Fishman might hesitantly also do the same, but paying good attention to what the others are doing.
These
𝗖𝗦𝗧?
Yep.
It has had its forehead to the ground now since it had cast its eyes unknowingly at first, but then knowingly upon its god. And if anyone is watching it, it seems to be trembling quietly and unmoving.
These shows of devotion are not required, my children. Not to this extreme. I understand that my brothers and sisters, some of them have a penchant for ritual, and I have my own flavors of it, true, but this success is not needed for me.
Elton would like abruptly stand back up again, but he's like very much waiting to see, be like, alright, well, what do you want from us? He's just looking very uncertain.
𝗖𝗦𝗧 remains where and how it is.
Neris will also remain where and how he is, which is notably standing, and he hasn't pressed a thumb up to his forehead. How long have you been here?
In your terms, millennia. The precision is not something truly practical to take into account when dealing with spans of time such as I do. But I have been here since the Great Flight.
Does Neris know what that relates to? Is that a common...
Roll me either a religion or a history check.
Would Loren also do this?
Yeah.
It will be religion.
Okay.
That is a natural 20 history.
Okay.
Oh, well.
For a total of?
29.
29. Okay. So,
wow.
I mean, this did not at all need a natural 20. This, yeah.
Gonna take it anyway.
Yeah. So the Great Flight was the final moment of the age of time. where, at the behest of Vethus, who saw what the combined struggles of the gods against each other was bringing to Fierlor, after sealing away the usurper gods, he beckoned his siblings in divinity away from Fierlor, finding themselves out of the world in much the same way they did to the usurpers, and leaving the world to just gentle observation and nudges, for their direct intervention, they realized, was far too destructive upon the world.
And I think on hearing that, Naris will just sort of give a very slight grin and we'll just stay.
Loren got a 23 religion, so I assume she just also would know a lot of that.
Yeah, you would know all of that.
Cool. So she kind of sits there awkwardly, and she doesn't stop kneeling, but less because she doesn't want to stop and more because she isn't sure what to do once she's standing again. So she kind of just sits up, at least, like with her hands on her knee, and she says, "That is a fair while. Have you not been lonely? Do people like you get lonely?"
Not in the grand scheme of things. I have spoken with some over the years, from a distance, some hand-picked champions, such as your friend here, and he gestures towards 𝗖𝗓. My child, I wish I could heal you of this affliction, though diminished as I am, I fear I cannot.
𝗖𝗓 remains shaking. It doesn't look upon its god, but with my, and I could be completely wrong here, Darby, I don't know how the gods work in their connection with their followers, but it would be my understanding that Loomis would likely be able to understand 𝗖𝗓. Would I be wrong in that assumption?
No, that is a fair understanding.
So Loomis would know that 𝗖𝗓 is not looking upon Loomis because it believes it not worthy, and it remains down in its show of faith and piousness. And it's not a self-pitying not worthy, it is a no one is worthy to look upon the gods. And I think if it had been looking up and seen its companions looking upon its god in such an unmasked and unafraid and pious manner, no one else would know, but Loomis would know that it would be angry and feel great shame on its friend's behalf.
You have done much to break yourself of the shackles of the world below. What is it for?
Sir, Loomis, is it? Sorry, it's a surprise to be in the presence of someone that those worship as a god. The Janus sort of straightens up and then sort of puts his arms behind his back in the very formal way that he used to do when he was not a captain, and then just inclines his head. We have travelled far. We are searching to prevent wrongs from happening before they happen, if that makes sense. There are things afoot on our plane that have brought us here, I suppose less with intent, rather than as a test run to see that we can do it. We have heard tell of a disturbance among the gods. Are you aware of this?
I am.
Janus's
No?
Janus's eyebrows shoot up and he looks around back at the rest of the group and then back to Loomis.
There has been, well, even going back to the Great Flight, there have been rumblings from the usurpers. But those rumblings have become more tremors of late. They are rising. And I am not sure what to make of it. I just know that there is dark magic and dark divinity afoot in Fierlor that has not been seen since prior to our flight.
We made the shift to this plane not very long ago. as we were present for an encounter with someone that serves. I believe the name of the god is Conrad, was it, I think?
Yes, a young upstart, the newest of the pantheon.
Yes, was once immortal, perhaps.
Yes, a mere 2 centuries old. That is including their time in mortality and undeath.
Really? I don't know much about him. You don't hear so much about the usurpers from place to place. But I always assume all gods have some form of undeath. This is... Well, when we left, we were fleeing. The general, we believe, someone called 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧, was summoning something in the sky. We felt we had no chance but to flee. We had to move to see if we could reach the stars before they could, I suppose. We do not know the full extent of what they plan to do. I'm ashamed to say this is merely an accident. But if you have information, if you can point us in a direction, if you know if this is the right place to be, we are in your debt.
Lot twitches involuntarily at the mention of 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧's name, and Loomis would know and feel the shame that rolls off it towards its god, for its god to know the name of what did this to it.
Alton flinches at Janice's words, the asking a god of a favor, the talk of being in its debt. He's just very afraid right now. He probably can't really speak. I think if everyone still has stayed kneeling, he's probably awkwardly returned to kneeling. He's very uncomfortable with what's happening right now. He waits for Loomis's words.
I do not speak much of fate. I do not speak much of fate. It's not within my domain. That is... I'm getting the name of my own gods here.
That's all good, Darby. You can double check.
Oh God, Loomis is forgetting that Conrad's coming. He's got
That
him.
comes with the age.
Actually, really quick, is 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧 an usurper god, or is she just...
𝗖𝗔𝗧 is a usurper.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. 𝗖𝗔𝗧 was a usurper to Arcani.
Ah, nice.
There we go. Fate falls in my sister 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧's domain. Only she can, among us, see the threads of destiny and where they may or may not lead. 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧, I fear for what this entity that has twisted you would wrought on the world. But you need fear no shame. It's a powerful champion of a fledgling deity, bolstered by dark, ancient magic. We deities, even when diminished, have great power. And when there is such an ancient dark magic involved within the hands of another god's champion, I fear there is little I can do in my current state.
Wait, sorry, sir. Sir? Ma'am? How does gender work with gods, actually? You don't have to unpack that. Sorry. But,
You could have a fun conversation with 𝗖𝗔𝗧 about that one day.
right. Loomis, are you saying that what happened to poor Glut here could be reversible?
I do not know for certain. It would take great power, great time.
And Glut, it used to be, is still your champion. She kind of looks over at Glut. How long ago, can I ask? And she's kind of asking both of them, but she isn't expecting a response from Glut.
I will note, when Loomis said its name, its head rose. It didn't look at Loomis. Its head is still bowed respectfully. But Loomis, you would have felt its own surprise at having the words spoken to it. It hasn't heard in such a long time now. Almost wrong in their familiarity. Also, Darby, if it helps, it was like a strong, very healthy but heading towards elderly, like an elder, not elderly, before this happened to it.
Yes. I'm trying to remember what event it was. So it would have been around
Shortly after the, around the time of, and shortly after the aftermath of the, that one Great War, you know?
It's somewhere in the vicinity of a century ago, maybe more, that Gulut was, or the one you call Gulut, was slain and twisted. They were a champion for a long time before that by your mortal standards.
Century? Oh, you're a little older than I thought, buddy. Wow. Sorry, this is just a lot to deal with. Loomis? Just, so with, so like our captain here, this is our captain. Hi, I'm Loren. Hello. You might know me. I don't know. I wouldn't presume. I've thanked you for a lot of fish that I have caught, from time to time. Honk. We came here as our captain was saying, sort of as a test run, but also because we were looking at these sort of, beacons of power that are all around the sort of the inky black sky that we're in. And yours was sort of the closest. Are all of those little beacons, citadels, if I may use a word randomly pulled from the air, are they, other gods?
Many of them, yes. And such similar entities.
Forgive me, what's similar to a god?
Sufficiently powerful celestials, other creatures that, well, within here call the astral sea home. Don't be mistaken, not all gods reside here on the astral sea.
One yeah.
Just a few of us.
Those, does, the young hot one we're all fighting, does he live here? What? He's hot? Don't look at me like that. I'm not blind.
No, it's fine. This is also a very good point. Is there somewhere in the stars that this god of the grave, Conrad, that he exists? We sort of just beat him to the punch right now. It has been theorized that the reason that this XC is trying to cause something to happen is to break down the planes of the barriers. Is this how things work? I'm sorry, this is very strange and very new. I have only ever worshipped gods and taken them as omens. It is strange to think that we might be speaking to one, that we are speaking to one.
Loomis feels rolling disgust at the mention of Conrad.
The vein shade has been placed within the astral sea, yes. He is somewhat out of place here, but that is for the best. Being somewhere not quite so attached to his assigned, shall we say, appropriately defined portfolios. Being so far from them keeps his power as diminished as possible for a new god.
Ah, that makes sense. So the closer they are to what they have charge over and who their worshippers are, the stronger they will be. That would make sense after all. That is why Shognish's power is ever encompassing across the mighty seas. No offense, of course. I know that your domain has some tidings over the oceans, of course. But, yes. No, this makes sense.
Alton's been kind of like, probably like, if anyone was looking, just like actively trying to fight off like a panic attack, is like kind of shaky, looking like he's kind of like holding himself up. And he'll just quietly ask, just like, speak up for the first time. Who else is here? Which deities are here?
When we were banishing usurper brethren from the prime material, from Fierlor, we thought it best to place them within planes that were anathema to their powers. We were able to have the good grace to reverse that clause of the banishment ritual ourselves. But here you will find the prime deities, those of us who allied against the usurpers that align in our portfolios with the domain of the astral sea, as well as a few of the usurpers whose domains are anathema to it. Conrad, who dwells in shadow and the urban landscapes. Aras, who is more at home underground and in more confined spaces.
Right. Thank you very much for the information and for talking and not smiting us. If it's okay, I'm going to take my leave. All right, bye everyone.
You need not worry too much, Alton. The deities, we are bound to our citadels. This is part of the binding and banishment ritual. Unless something were to break that binding, there is nothing that we can do to depart from these citadels. We can communicate, yes. We can let our will be known through champions who may act on that will. But we cannot be direct. We cannot traverse the astral sea. We are bound to our homes. Some of us, it is a refuge. For others, a prison.
Stan's kind of still listening to this. Yeah, clearly like pondering the words and the truthfulness of it. And he just kind of nod and be like, thank you. But I think he will still go on the ship and just kind of like nod to the others. He just like kind of, he's clearly like very overwhelmed by what is happening. He does not want to be in this situation. Although what I forgot his name. Although what Loomis said did bring some level of comfort to him.
Janice does turn to almost stop Alton, but he just nods and returns back to focusing on Loomis. And it's very clear that while Janice is quite easily sort of trying to chat, he is very tense and very focused on all of this situation. He just nods again. He's like, all right, so a self-imposed exile for some. That leads to another question then that we are trying to solve ourselves, and I must admit I do not understand part of it. Do you know something called animancy? Apparently this might be some barrier or the magic comprised between it to keep you all safe or contained. Do you know of this?
From what I understand, the effects of our departure on your world, animancy is, yes, in many ways a side effect. It is what constitutes the remainder of our impact on your world in a more direct way. Yes, there is the divine magic on priests and clerics and champions, but there is also animancy, much more raw, much less focused form of that magic. Though I believe there are some who have come to focus it, but they are the exception rather than the rule.
Really? So people that practice it can harness it. Do you think it does have something then? If there was an absence of it or an overabundance of it, would that affect the barrier you reside within?
I do not know. Its existence at all is not an intended consequence of our departure. So anything known of it can only be gleaned through experimentation.
Of course, as can anything.
Are there any of you that are experimenting with it?
My knowledge, no.
We have a friend, Rue. You might have seen them flying around. They were our maids of animancy. They kind of brought us here. Is that common? I know you said your powers in their current state aren't what they used to be. But do you know maybe where Rue came from? Do you know if there's maybe a way to get Rue back? You see, someone was experimenting with the idea that having more animancy in the sea would help you guys out. So it's interesting to hear that that's not actually a guarantee. Loren is very pointedly not looking at a certain member of this party right now.
Again, I cannot say I truly know what this entity would be. So if they are a being of animancy, and they are still drifting as animancy, as animav through the astral sea, then perhaps there is hope.
Hi. Good. Thank you. She kind of does bow her head a little bit, even though he says he doesn't like that.
Yes, no, thank you for entertaining us. I feel like I have a great many more questions. Would you be able to indulge me with this one, though? And he reaches into his little side satchel, and he pulls out a carefully folded up piece of parchment, and he almost like he's not like being super secretive, but he's not like no one else on the ship has seen this before, and he holds it out to show, like, in front of himself to show Loomis, and it's this is an okay draw, but like he's drawn from what he remembers of what the orrery that he had to dig up from the sand was when he was with the Sin Seekers all those months ago. So like it's not like very detailed, but it's just what he remembers having packed up, and like what it is. It's sort of like an orrery as well as like it's because Janice was made to dig it up with the Sin Seekers. You could listen to that scene ages ago. But yeah, an orrery is kind of like for people who can't picture in their mind palaces too, it's like a clockwork model of like a solar system, or like the sun or the earth or the moon. Does this mean anything to you?
Not specifically, but it does seem to depict the worlds of many planes.
Really?
Their interaction with one another.
He looks back at it.
Such as they are. Yeah, such as they are through the barriers.
I see. Appreciate it, thank you. That is more my personal query. He folds it back up and puts it back in his little bag.
There are parts of it I would say I do not understand. Something a little more.
In what way?
Some additional element of destination beyond that of plane or direction or space.
Just quickly takes it back out of his little hip bag and like looks at it with like paper crinkling noises everywhere. Really? That is interesting indeed.
I
Shall
do not know in greater specificity.
No, this is most helpful. This will play a part in everything. Of what, though, I am not certain. It's another party that is definitely invested in this potential threat to the gods. Thank you. And he finally does look back over the rest of the party, minus Alden, who's hiding back on the ship, just to see if they seem to have any queries or anything. What are their sort of vibes? He does, as he does this as well, he does sort of like his brow furrows as he looks over Galut, and then continues to look at the rest of the group, at Loren and Fishman and Neras.
You notice, with your passive perception, slowly floating, hovering out of the front door of the Citadel, a large, strange, shall we say, black, chitinous being, almost humanoid, but kind of like, almost like a mix between Baymax and the alien from Alien. Like probably leaning more towards the Baymax look insofar as shape, while being more the texture, the chitinous texture of the alien. So black, hard, bug-like in a way. And it is just calmly floating out of the Citadel, ever so slowly.
Does it have a direction to its floating? Can Fishman kind of gauge where it's floating to?
Just outwards.
Fishman might chime up and say, "Were you expecting company other than us? As it seems you have some."
Yes. creature is a Zodar. They are strange rarities made of obsidian, or encased in obsidian. They are unknown as to their purpose or even their origin. There are many theories, but even we divine do not truly know.
Then perhaps do you know of their intent, their stance? Should we be worried?
This is one that has been wandering around here for close to a millennia now. They go where, well, we don't know, but we suspect they go where fate, whim, whatever it may be, takes them. They
Take shape in many strange forms, it seems.
Not much is known about them, but they speak very rarely. Most accounts that I've heard suggest that they speak only thrice in their entire existence. And all those who have heard a Zodar speak all professed a great profundity within its words.
So this creature is an ally of yours, then? Can it pass through Can it pass through your self-imposed barriers in a way that you cannot?
I do not know that ally is quite the right word. It has been around.
Roommate then, surely.
It's not entirely inaccurate.
Well, what a strange circumstance.
But-
I suppose at least it would be an amusement for you.
But yes, it can travel within and without the citadel at its leisure.
Good. Well, I was almost a bit worried to find out too. I was almost a bit worried you were going to turn around and say, no, neither can you now. So isn't that fortunate? Boy, tough crowd. All right. Well, interesting. Well, as long as it means there's no harm, I suppose that being here is fine.
Yeah. Is it still just floating by?
Yeah,
Because if it goes near the ship,
it
fishmen.
is floating closer to you as a group.
Would Alton have seen it on the way out? Or, like, is Alton back on the ship now, or?
I don't think he would have seen it on the way out. He's much too stressed.
Yeah, Fishman won't bother about it. Yeah, I guess Fishman just watches this thing as it gets closer. Do you know in what tongue it speaks?
I have not had the pleasure of hearing it speak.
I think Neris at this point, on hearing everything, he's not ignoring this god, this deity whose home we have wandered into, but he has actively done a 180 and is just sort of staring up in wonder at this new creature that's seemingly floating towards, that has some profound knowledge of everything, and is almost amazed and in awe. Still guarded, but intrigued just intrigued.
Doesn't today just keep getting weirder and weirder? Oh, so this is your friend, and you two roommate, Captain, and you two just sort of hang out? Does it floating around? So you said it moves where fate wills it to. It's moving with quite a rapid float towards us here. Should we be worried, panicking, running, praying?
I do not think so.
Good. Great.
So it's just mildly ominous then. That's fine. Who around here isn't?
I would like to insight check a god, please.
Roll me an insight check.
Okay. What the fuck is that? Copies of the gods. Okay, that's a dirty 20.
Dirty 20. Okay. Seems to be telling the truth. There's you're not reading any obvious lie hell.
Okay. That almost makes me feel more anxious, actually. I would feel better if the gods were lying to me. She is saying that in her head. By the way, please don't let the gods smite me for saying that. Or Galut. I think Galut would. Yeah, I guess Loren is gonna keep one eye on this big guy. Big person. Excuse me, big entity. And is gonna be like, so Loomis's friend, roommate, you know we're on your side here. We want you all to stay happy in your little moon houses, as much as you do. Is there anything you want to tell us to help us out with that? We're sort of, half of us kind of just signed up to sail on a boat, and now we're here. It would be really wonderful if you could, like, I don't know, give us I feel weird asking for this. Just, yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. I'm going to stop talking now. I need to stop talking, actually.
I cannot say I know where the flow of fate will take you, or what will be required of you in days and weeks to come. But for now, I can divest some small token of power, such that it may one day work its magic with time. I do not know how successful that will be in aiding you in your goals, but it will be something.
Something's better than nothing.
There is something coming, something bigger than any of you, and something bigger even than I.
What is it?
What my captain said.
I do not know.
Oh, it was a hypothetical question. Sorry, my apologies. I'm not very good at picking up on those ones sometimes.
The rumblings that have turned to tremors that we spoke of earlier. With more specificity, I cannot say. But this small token of power, it should aid you in that. It should aid you in bringing back your ally to a more permanent form. And it is fostered greatly enough to undo what has been done by a dark champion with ancient dark magic than 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧 even knew may be restored by it in time. But that will all be dependent on what is to pass.
So no pressure is what you're saying, basically.
Something like that. Okay, so you feel the magical energy of Loomis wash over you all, even you, Alton, from within the ship. There's not a lot to it. It's just a little manifestation of his divine energies. But you feel yourself somewhat bolstered by it, empowered by it. Mechanically, everyone is gaining a free feat. Yes. So, is there anything else that folks have to ask of Loomis?
Fisherman is going to cast a message, as this will be done in private.
Okay.
You know of... Sorry, I'll start again. You know quite a bit about us, but what of me?
You are not a Fierlor. That I know.
And that... Actually, this is message. He can't talk. Yep.
Child of 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧. I have allies that still would have dominion over your lands, but I cannot say that there is anything that I am entirely knowledgeable about of your people.
Another message. Oh, actually, no. He can say this one out loud. What do you know of 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧, then?
𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧, force of nature, bound the plane of water. One of a few amongst them. A titan, a beast forged by the usurpers as a blunt instrument in the wars that made up what you'll call the Age of Carnage.
You know of their whereabouts?
Do not.
That is all then. And Fishman will bow his head. Maybe turn his eye to our floating friend. Have they floated by, or...?
It continues to kind of hover gently, ever closer to you as a group.
While this creature is sort of bobbing their way through time and space to get to us, I think Neris is going to sort of almost reluctantly tear his eyes away from this creature, as he can kind of sense conversation almost dying down a little bit. He's going to look around at everyone and also at 𝗖𝗦𝗧 on the ground. You mentioned animancy is almost a wild expression of your own magic. There are, as you mentioned, those who are capable of wielding such power. That power, do you have any idea how it could be used to break a binding?
I do not. Though I would not be surprised if it were possible, as it is made of similar magics. It is wrought from similar divinity.
Like can destroy like, as it were.
Something along those lines, yes.
And if someone was able to control this animancy and destroy a citadel, in your understanding, would that be enough? Hypothetically speaking.
If a powerful enough wielder of it were to focus it, then potentially.
Final question, then we will leave you to your halls. If one were to have a large enough concentration of this wild magic, perhaps created in one form, one figure, would that be enough to break binding?
Potentially, though I do not know. So what I do know is that magics of the citadels are deeply intertwined. If one were to break, then the others would soon follow. And with it, the only true barrier between the Fierlor and the divine.
I'm sorry, all the citadels are connected?
They are formed of the same magic.
Wonderful. I know I did say that was my last question, but I'm getting greedy. I apologize.
Questions, well, answers often beget more questions. It is the process of learning.
This may beget more questions on your behalf. I apologize if this makes no sense, but have you told me this before?
I have not. Curious question.
I'm a curious individual.
I have no doubt you have your reasons for it. The 𝗖𝗔𝗦𝗧 seems inanimate. He glances over the continuing to inch towards your group to the point where it's quite only about a yard away.
Oh, he has gotten quite close. And Neris will turn back and regard this new figure.
You see, there are vertical slits within what you would assume were the face of this entity. That glow with a slight blue light. These slits resemble eyes, although there is no hint of any sort of emotion betrayed by its countenance.
Bobby,
Yeah.
can I insight check this thing? Or I guess not insight, or does this magic look familiar?
The magic of the 𝗖𝗧.
Yeah. The blue lights, the eyes. Does it look familiar to anyone we've met before? Anyone who was maybe on our crew for a couple of months?
Roll me an Arcana check.
Okay. Okay. Decent roll. Fuck. Okay. That was an Arcana.
Yes.
Proficient in that. 21.
21. Its essence doesn't seem identical, but there is something similar in its nature to that which you suspect there is a similarity in nature.
Oh. You said that. Hi, sorry. I'm just jumping in. I said I wasn't going to talk and now I am. Sorry, I do that. You said these things only speak like a couple times in their life, right?
Yes.
Do you know how many times this one's spoken?
To my knowledge, it has not spoken.
Cool. Loren gets up and she's gonna go over to the 𝗖𝗧. I'm assuming it's been like kind of coming towards like our little group. It was kind of like Janice, Loren, Neris, like Fishman, and then like Galut at the front. And she just kind of goes up to it and she's like, "Hi, I'm Loren. Are you Rue's sibling? You don't have to speak and use up some of your words. Just a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That'll give me some sort of emotional satisfaction, bud."
There is no direct response.
Okay, well, at least you were correct in saying that that doesn't seem to be hostile, says Janice, watching this interaction with tenseness.
Oh, right, I wasn't gonna... She takes like half a step back. Okay, well, now I've made myself look a bit of a fool. That's fine. I think our friend's made of animancy, in a way, similar to Rue.
Maybe that's why it was attracted here, I suppose, if it's technically the same magic used to locate gods in their godly places? I don't really understand it that much, but that seems to make a measure of it.
Can I try something?
Oh no.
You can always try something. It's the nature of D&D.
From what we know, this creature wanders this plane, following where fate takes them. They don't speak, but when they do, it is a great profundity within its words.
Yes.
Neris is connecting some dots that this may have some link to fates, the future, the past, a great understanding, something like that. Neris wants to very slowly put his hand, and this is something he's not tried before, just reach into his satchel, place a hand on his glowing orb of divination, and is going to try and, I don't know how to word this, expend a glimpse of fate or the future from the orb directly to this creature to form almost like a bridge, like a link or an understanding.
Is there a specific ability of the
No.
orb that you would...
Not at all.
Okay.
Potentially is like just trying to link our futures and our fates. So potentially looking at mechanically maybe using a charge or two to attempt to change fate or force a reroll, essentially. So having that link of a new future, a chosen future, essentially trying to create some form of common ground with what he thinks this creature is, or has the ability to do.
You don't get any sort of directives.
Yes.
But you do have a sort of gut feeling that, at least for now, this creature, this entity is tied to the fate of yourself and your allies. To what end, you do not know, but there is a tie here at the moment.
Then we very quickly cast message to the captain. This creature, this being is part of our journey for now. To what end, I do not know, but it is... We are one.
We need it. I believe he messages back with the necklace as he touches that. Looking eyes of Neris finally.
Has no interaction, no reactions. Other than approaching you initially, it remains aloof throughout this entire process.
Well, it seems friendly enough, but it has dwelled in your place for a long time, Loomis.
It has remained here for a while, but I knew it must be due to pass on at some point. Clearly,
Today might be that day then, you feel.
that seems to be the implication here.
We have become somewhat collectors of lost souls, so it's pretty easy to understand it up, to spot it sometimes. Would you begrudge our accompanying this creature, or taking your roommate from here, so to speak?
I would not. It is the nature of a Zodar to go where fate takes it. I am not one to interfere with fate in such a way.
Fate takes it. How interesting. And he sort of half turns to this this deity that we're just casually conversing with on the moon, and tilts his head slightly to one side. And what about your champion? What wish do you have for it?
As you mention the champion, I think maybe you look upon Glud and you see its head is still hung down. Loomis, you have been aware of this going on, but I think given the nature of everything that is happening, and I only mention this now because it may alter some response, but Janice, I think you may be looking upon it, see... I'm so sorry, I just had the shit scared out of me by movement in the background that looked like a person. It was just my cat standing on my couch.
I mean,
Apologies. I don't know
Zuko's
whether we need
basically
to
like a man,
edit that,
a human
but
man.
I did just get fucking jump scared by my own cat in a way that was very disturbing and looked like a human woman was just hanging out in my house.
That's fair.
Okay. Yeah, so you look upon Gulut and you see that it is no longer present. And Loomis, you know, it's lost itself within a part of it, untouched and unseen for the span of decades. Its head is hung, but it's unresponsive, exposed beneath the truth of Sorry, I'm gonna redo that.
That's all
line.
good. Take your time. Retake as much as you'll need.
Its head is hung, but it's unresponsive, exposed beneath the truth of its god, and aware in a sense of clarity only known to it in the briefest of moments before. The fate of the group swirls around it, but it swirls within its own former fate, lost in memories that only touched at it before.
What of your champion?
I do not know if the motes of power that I have gifted you will enable their recovery, their full self, from the warping of the Vein Shade's champion.
It was excellent that you did this, just to be clear. Just to put it out there in the open here. Your champion did not look like this, and has lost its mind because of the champion of the Vein Shade.
And it was their devotion, and I will confess zealotry, that appears to have kept them from the brink of total loss of self.
Then perhaps its devotion can bring it back to you once more.
Perhaps. And that is why I leave you with my divine gift, the hopes that you will do good with it.
We thank you for it, Loomis. Again, we appreciate your insight, and we shall be safe wardens of your gifts.
Trust that you will.
May fair seas shine upon us all.
I know this is the thing that, like, we're meant to say about, like, for you, not to you, but oh god, what is it? May the moon guide your way when the stars are dim. Thank you.
May it guide yours, Loren Hartwiller.
So you were listening when I thanked you for the fish. Good to know. Good to know.
Some of it makes its way through the cacophony.
If you'll beg pardon, we will probably reconvene aboard our ship. We may leave, we may return, but I thank you for your kind allowance of our passage here. I must admit, some of our manners, myself especially, are quite rusty. I was not expecting to be traversing anywhere. This is sort of the stuff of dreams, really.
I
But
was,
with... Oh,
I
sorry.
was not expecting the company. It was a pleasant momentary distraction.
Yes, I suppose it would be. Thank you. And he nods. And then he will kind of like look around to see what the others are doing, but he will return back to the ship, but it's not like with any expected urgency that people will follow him. Just so you can sort of get the vibe that people have either gotten enough information and will return to the ship with that, or will seek out more information without him around.
Before heading back, can Neris just have a... Are we in like an antechamber or like a grand hall, or Neris essentially wants to have a look around and see if anything looks not godly or vaguely animantic, anything that could potentially point to Rue, which in Neris's mind is still the reason why we're here.
So you're basically in a yard of sorts. And yes, sir, roll me a perception check.
15.
15. There's nothing that seems to be a clear guidance in that direction.
Perhaps we have our guide. And Neris looks over to this creature that is floating and following us. And Neris will also return to the ship.
Fishman will also have a look around, kind of getting that sense of familiarity, but not quite understanding. Perhaps he's connected to this, perhaps he's not. but he's got other things to ponder right now, so he will also leave.
There's only two of us left. Loren said her little piece and was fully intending to go back, and then takes a couple of steps as everyone else kind of walks off, and then pauses and looks back. I'm assuming Galut has not moved.
Or is yet to move or become responsive.
Okay. Loren watches everyone else kind of walk off, and she doubles back. She kind of looks between Loomis and Galut, and then with a nod kneels next to Galut. Can you hear me, buddy?
There's just silence still.
Galut? Shit. She looks up at Loomis. I don't mean to be crass. I think it's a little lost in the sauce here. With, joyous religious rhapsody. Help. I'm not very good at all of this. I'm not sure if you've noticed, I've only really recently started hanging out with people who have, normal interactions.
Vexor?
It raises its head, and in a moment that I don't think it realizes it does before it catches itself, it meets the eyes of its god.
You have a greater destiny set out for you, greater than what has been lain before you thus far.
It is still for a moment like a deer in the headlights, coming back not quite to itself, but out of where it was. And when it realizes what is happening, who it is looking at, it bows its head again. And I think then notices you, Loren, and you see it turn to face you, and it gives a gentle nod. And Loomis would feel as not directing it within either of the gifts that have been given to it within these powers, but Galut, perhaps within the last lucid moments of Zexor, pass his channel divinity and gives that power freely to Loomis, the smallest of gift to his god, before it stands and it turns and it reaches a paw for Loren.
Loren watches all of this, aware of the sort of sanctity and vulnerability of what she is absorbing. And also in the same way that when she heard the name Luther in an underground cabin, just to herself, she signs Vexor. Just to herself, to remember it. And then she holds a hand out to Galut.
Galut takes it, and in a way that feels distinctly more human-like than it was, just in this moment, walks you back to the ship.
As this beautiful moment is happening, Loren, as we're walking back, is gonna kind of look back at Loomis, and she has sending, but she's not really gonna use it. I'm assuming not to the same extent that Galut can sort of connect with Loomis, since it was his champion. Loren, as a worshipper, has a connection with Loomis. Would I be right in that sort of assumption?
Yeah, to an extent.
Okay. She's just gonna think really hard, and she's gonna go, hey, can I take a bit of the moon? Just like a rock, just a pebble. She's just thinking, can I take a pebble of the moon? Actually, as like as a gift, as a trinket. It doesn't have to be magic. I just kind of want it.
Is your hand open or closed at the moment?
There's one holding Galut's big paw, and the other would be open.
Okay.
I'll repeat that whole sentence, sorry, because I don't know when the honk came in. The other hand would be open.
Okay. So you feel as if a slight amount of weight has been added to one of your pockets.
In her mind, Loren does a fist pump and thinks again at Loomis. Thank you. Thank you. May the moon guide you and may the tide be in your favor. And then she walks with Galut to the ship.
Okay. And yeah, as you board the ship, that is where we're going to leave it for this episode. We'll pick back up next time with conversation on the ship. All right. thank you for listening, folks. Hope you
Thanks
you,
for listening,
guys.
everyone.
Right.
See you next week. Thank
See you
you.
next time.
Don't forget to like
Joining
and
us.
subscribe. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Everyone has a fake name except for me.
You can make one up if you want, I guess. If you just feel left out.
I never said Glut was its name, just the name that it was given. Didn't say who gave it.
True.
Mm.